is the ages of the 4 members of our family, Karuna, Ko, Kaz, and Linda, all added up, plus the 33 years of marriage, and this is like a bash for everything.
But thank you for bringing so wonderful drinks and food.
Toen ik Tanahashi in levende lijven ontmoette, hadden we al jaren contact gehad via e-mail. Onze ontmoeting leek voorbestemd. Kaz, zoals hij vaak wordt genoemd, was niet alleen een zenmeester, maar ook kunstenaar. Boeddhisme en kunst, het zijn 2 gebieden die mijn leven hebben gevormd. Ook delen we de overtuiging dat kunst zich in elk onderdeel van de maatschappij moet manifesteren. Toen Kaz me zijn geëngageerde kunst als vredesactivist liet zien, was het duidelijk. Deze film moesten we maken. Jaren geleden was Kaz al bekend geraakt met Nederland, dankzij een visionair kunstverzamelaar, uitgever en hoteleigenaar. Hij nodigde Kaz uit om deel te nemen aan een internationale vredesconferentie. Hij begon het werk van Kaz te verzamelen en tussen de beide mannen ontstond een innige vriendschap, die de grenzen overschrijdt tussen openbaar en privé, tussen kunst en leven. Ik vroeg Wouter of hij het vertrekpunt wilde zijn voor mijn zoektocht naar het leven van Kaz.
Sky above, great wind. Each moment, miracles. Beautiful.
That's how I feel, each moment.
Het diepgaande inzicht van Kaz in de tijdelijkheid van het bestaan en zijn berustende houding tegenover leven en dood was een grote hulp voor Wouter, die te kampen had met de ziekte van Parkinson. Ontroerd door hun diepe band en intimiteit vroeg ik Wouter of hij, zolang hij dat nog kon, bepaalde kwesties in het leven van Kaz bespreekbaar wilde maken, waar ik als vrouw misschien niet bij kon komen.
Kaz, you are an Aikido master, you are a calligrapher, you paint, you write books, you translate, you engage in peace projects, you are a husband and a father. Did I forget maybe 1 or 2 disciplines? What made you engage in so many different activities, especially that you call yourself lazy?
Well, I'm interested in many things. So when I paint, I'm a painter. When I do calligraphy, I do calligraphy. But also when I paint, sometimes I feel the pain of the world. The war is approaching. I get really upset, and then I have so much fear, and so I have an urge to try to stop it. Or when I think of the past aggression of the Japanese Empire and then violence, I feel so ashamed. I have so much remorse. So I like to paint. Calligraphy can be always a kind of basis of my artistic creativity, and then I can always go back to that. Dripping used to be very bad, just mistakes, and it's kind of shameful things for a calligrapher. But thanks to Jackson Pollock, now it's part of art, important part of art. Action, practice.
San Francisco, de stad waar Kaz naartoe verhuisde toen hij Japan verliet. We bezoeken het San Francisco Zen Center, dat hier in 1962 door de Japanse zenmeester Suzuki Roshi werd opgericht, om een ex-collega van Kaz te ontmoeten.
And then it turned out that it was the year of the dragon, and it was a leap year when I moved. The very day was leap year day, and the year of the dragon.
Oh, great name. I didn't know it was a pun.
Okay. Hope to see you next time you come
Okay,
by.
yeah, great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Kaz is always very, very free. In a certain way, maybe in Japanese painting I could be freer than he because he had to conform to the Japanese ways, which I didn't have to do being a Gaijin American. I could try something different, even more different than Kaz, which is different enough. I think one of the dangers of institutional Zen is that we emphasize discipline, which is very important. Discipline is very important, but discipline alone is not enough. You have to be free within discipline. You have to be able to, and art is one way you could show that, and Kaz certainly had. He had all the chops of the traditional, having studied a lot of traditional things, but at the same time he could be who he was. So Zen is both about being like everyone and being who you are. And Kaz certainly emphasizes being who he is, which is a great learning for us all.
I wanted to make a large painting in 1986, and I needed a big brush. And then I was going to have a show at Cathedral of St. John the Divine. So for a big cathedral, I needed a big paintings. Over here.
Here. Wow. So this is for the Enso.
Yeah,
Today.
this circle.
This is very original. I've never seen a brush like this, especially in Japan, you know. Just really.
Well, Japanese artists don't make brushes, right?
That's true.
In Japan, everything is sort of professionalized, so, you know, like calligraphers or painters don't take brush makers' jobs. But here, this is America, maybe. So let's see.
Oh yeah, that's looking great. So we're gonna.
It feels good.
I probably met Kaz when he was doing his big ink paintings and drawings, and yeah, there's drama around Kaz because he's not disclosing much. You don't know when he's going to emerge.
Each line is alive, so you don't correct it. You know, the entire life of the artist can be expressed in one line. Western paintings like watercolor have some element of that, but often like oil paintings, you kind of build up, you know, layers and layers and layers, and then it's like building a huge cathedral or something. And Japanese, maybe it looks like, building a tea house with a little paper and pieces of wood. And I learn from both sides, and I combine both ways.
Zenmeesters, kunstenaars, wetenschappers en vrienden zijn bij elkaar om de 80ste verjaardag van Kaz te vieren in uitgebreid familieverband.
I have 3 teeny anecdotes. One about Kaz and me, one about Karuna when she was little, and one about Ko when he was little. Don't worry, Ko, it's not that one. So, we met at Zen Center in San Francisco in 1977. He was incredibly eligible, He came over from Japan, and he was an artist, and he was intriguing. I got interested in him, but I wasn't the only one. And I somehow kind of invited him into some kind of experience together, and he said, the first thing he said was, "I think you're a wonderful person." When they say that, the answer is no.
Behind you is a symbol of mind-heart. Mm-hmm. What does this symbol mean or represent in general, and to you personally?
In a Buddhist way, it's almost like contemporary neuroscience, and also maybe German philosophy, like Immanuel Kant. And consciousness is the basic, and then because we see things exist, because we act, there is a world. So we can really learn the kind of inseparableness of the outer world and then inner world.
You say that you are a pupil of Dogen.
13th century Japanese Zen master, brilliant thinker, who brought Zen teaching from China. He was one of the early establishers of monastic tradition in Zen Buddhism. He was a reformer of Buddhism in Japan. Great poet.
You translated his work.
Yes.
Just imagine this young man in Japan becoming interested in Dogen, and so then learning medieval Japanese in order to translate him, and then learning Chinese in order to translate him. And then being here in the West, he had studied English in Japan, but improving his English by living here. In order to translate into English, he relied on his Japanese, his understanding of medieval Japanese, of Chinese, of English, and also intimacy of language. He always worked with a native translator, a native speaker of the language who was a Buddhist practitioner. So he kind of invited that non-separation right in the process of translating.
Kaz would read from the text, or from the Japanese text. Mm-hmm. And then I would put that into English, right? And then I would write down by hand my notes. And it was just a wonderful kind of cooperation. And I felt that the way I liked doing this was to not kind of focus on little bits at a time, but to go through and find the rhythm that Dogen was using, or the rhythm that would make a comprehensive translation.
In America, sometimes we think that there are scholars and non-scholars, but there are also people in between who are involved in translation and their knowledge, but are also involved in other people and their practice. And it's not just the perfect etymological word that's going to work. Perfect etymological work might be fine for etymology, but it may not be fine for a person's usage and practice. So he had a little bit of both that.
In 1959, 2 decennia voordat Kas naar Amerika ging, was Suzuki hier naartoe gekomen om de kennis en de wijsheid te verspreiden van de Soto-zen-traditie, die in Japan was ontwikkeld door Dogen. Ook Kas besteedde vele jaren van zijn leven aan het vertalen van Dogen voor een westers publiek.
Suzuki Roshi, our teacher, talked about Dogen a lot, but there was almost nothing to read about Dogen. But he embodied Dogen's teaching. So embodying Dogen's teaching was transferred to me.
It's your major achievement.
Yeah, yeah, it has taken me 50 years.
50 years.
Since 1960.
Amazing.
I think a glossary itself is over 100 pages. 4,000 entries. So, Japan, China, India. On the great road of Buddha ancestors, there is always unsurpassable practice, continuous and sustained. It forms the circle of the way and is never cut off. Between aspiration, practice, enlightenment, and nirvana, there is not a moment's gap. Continuous practice is the circle of the way.
He is a very, very well-respected and in fact beloved Zen teacher, but he never joined an institution. He's a free man. If he was a samurai, they'd call him a ronin, someone masterless. He's got many teachers, and he works with many of the Buddhist groups here not just in America, but also in Asia and Europe. And I think that informs his translation as much as his keen awareness of Dogen's Japanese.
Enlightenment does not divide you, just as the moon does not break the water. You cannot hinder enlightenment, just as a drop of water does not crush the moon in the sky. The depth of the drop is the height of the moon. Each reflection, however long or short its duration, manifests the vastness of the dewdrop and realizes the limitlessness of the moonlight in the sky.
This passage is part of Dogen's essay called Genjo Koan, translated as Actualizing the Fundamental Point.
Het Tassajara Zen Mountain Center is het eerste Zen-trainingklooster dat in het Westen werd opgericht. In Californië de bakermat van bevrijding en vrede voor een nieuwe generatie die zich tegen de status quo keerde. Kunstenaars, muzici en dichters lieten zich hier graag inspireren door een toevloed van boeddhistische leraren uit het oosten. Suzuki's boek Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind werd de spirituele klassieker van de revolutie van de jaren 60. Zijn invloed was zo groot dat ik me afvraag hoe deze creatieve geesten zich hadden ontwikkeld zonder Suzuki's lessen in spontaniteit en hoe zonder angst te leven. Dit is de plek waar Suzuki Roshi zijn beroemde zenleerlingen onderwees. En na zijn dood werd dit zijn laatste rustplaats. Kaz volgde eind jaren 70 in Suzuki's voetsporen. Sinds jaren geeft hij hier nu les in de kunst van kalligrafie en in zenbeoefening.
We don't manipulate the brush with fingers or wrist. So what would you do? We use the entire arm, sideways, away from you, toward yourself, up and down. We try to keep the brush fairly straight up.
Kaz teaches by who he is. The simple presence of who Kaz Tanahashi is brings people to a different awareness. He teaches through repetition. You do very much the same thing over and over again. It's like a meditation practice.
Everyone was really struggling, and he just reminded us that, this calligraphy business has been around for thousands and thousands of years. So if you could just relax and get out of the way a little bit, the masters will flow through your hands. So don't worry. So that was really nice to, through this vehicle of the brush, that you can be connected.
First, how to take care of the brush. When you hold the brush, you smile. And you keep smiling. If you want to stop smiling, you put down the brush. So, smiling and then brushwork goes together all the time. Your job is to be fully relaxed. This is not collaboration, we're not collaborating. You let me draw, and then you just don't do anything. Don't think of leading me. Okay. So, see this one. There's a kind of battle within ourselves, going faster, trying to go faster, but maybe I should do it more slowly. So eventually you get used to it, and then you really enjoy doing things slowly. And I think doing things slowly is the secret of transformation.
I studied calligraphy with Kaz just a little bit. You sit down at his table and you have the ink already on the brush, and then his hand comes in. And I describe it to people, it's like at the hand of God, like your arm just moves in this smooth, mysterious, fluid way. And you make beautiful characters.
Ko, do you want, what about corn? I have this corn that's begging to be used. No?
Yeah.
Tracksuit.
Let's forget we guys keep our code.
I think here, in the kind of Buddhism and the kind of community I live in, and that Kaz is drawn to, because he's an American Zen and European Zen. I mean, that's where he lives. He's not hanging out with those guys in Japan. But for us who, like, say, the American Buddhists, we are creating a different kind of balance between the personal and what transcends and liberates from the narrow boundaries of the personal.
Okay. So do you guys keep real butter around here these days, or just the just the bean paste?
No, we have
the old vegetable.
And that has all kinds of implications. Includes ethics, includes social and political action, many kinds of integration.
There was a time during the 80s and 90s when he was criticizing the Japanese government for importing uranium. And that was a big project for him. And he was very actively doing that. And so he has that side of him, that activism side, atomic waste.
I had never been politically engaged with any kind of social service work. So I talked to Baker Roshi, who was the abbot of Zen Center, and I was working for preparing Dharma transmission documents, translating from Japanese into English. And I said to Baker Roshi, Dharma transmission is important. There may be Dharma, but there may not be any more people once nuclear war starts. So why don't we try to secure our people, human beings? So he said it's okay to start a nuclear study group. So we started studying the nuclear arms race situations.
I was mostly just interested in vegetable gardening and farming. Started out as a political thing, I guess. It was, food justice, local farming, lowering our environmental impact through growing our own food, and creating access, I guess, reducing poverty through that as well. I mean, one of the things that attracted me to gardening was the focus and kind of place that you reach when you're completely engrossed with what you're doing, which I guess in some ways is a form of a practice that I do. Creating places where beauty and health can thrive in our cities, it just shows a lot about who we are as people, If they become dead zones where plants and animals can't thrive, then, more and more of the world's just going to become dead.
I think it was a continuing discovery, because I knew that when I was a small child, my family was not the normal family. We didn't eat normal foods. We didn't do normal activities. I would sort of see my friends with their parents, and the fathers might be talking about football or business, and I would come home and my dad is sitting with one of the Buddhist scholar priests talking about sentient beings. I really did see how beautiful creativity could be, with my dad being the living embodiment of an artist.
My father was a military officer, so he engaged in a campaign to invade China in 1937. So he was very successful and he became a war hero. And then he became kind of a strategist, war planner in the imperial military headquarters. He created different ways of fighting, surprising Chinese. Then he got injured, so he was sent back to Tokyo. And there was a play called Captain Tanahashi, and then by a Zenshin's fairly famous theater. So it was kind of performed all over Japan. So that was the beginning of my kind of connection with war. My father was fighting. I know the fear and then the danger and the starvation and all this amazing kind of scenes of dead bodies and and then burning cities, and I experienced it myself, when I was a kid, and I don't want any children in the world to experience that. That is my kind of life's vow. I can really see that, everything was so militaristic, a lot of hittings, maybe teachers hitting, and then, older students hit younger students or, parents. My father never kind of hit us, but it was so common. I think the whole society was violent and imperialistic, militaristic, sexist, and it was a kind of hard time. Later I knew that my father was the kind of driving force for avoiding Pearl Harbor. He was a Shinto practitioner, so was Morihei Ueshiba, and he received a message from his deity and say, you should not fight with the United States, and otherwise you will lose. My father was in the way, so the government sent him to Europe with General Yamashita to study the weapon systems of Germany and Italy. He was standing on the caboose and then kind of saying goodbye, just turning his arm all over like this. And, so that was when my father was leaving. And then now I feel that the collaboration between Morihei Ueshiba and my father was kind of broken apart, when the train was leaving off to Kyushu, the west, and then he left for Europe.
So you're very sad when you say that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What does it mean?
Well, there were so many people who suffered so much. Many people were killed. Then the government started saying, 102 million people crushed like jewels. So it means, they were kind of advocating kind of collective suicide. Yeah. The kind of training we had was even, school children, we will never surrender. We'll kill the enemy or be killed, or kill ourselves. So that's the only choice. And that happened in Okinawa. Everyone, and then a lot of schoolgirls, jump into the ocean, from the cliff and kill themselves.
Could we clarify something that you said earlier when you said that when your father was sent to Europe, you felt that broke his collaboration with Ueshiba Sensei, and then you actually were crying about that. So do you feel that what did that collaboration mean?
Well, they were trying to kind of stop Pearl Harbor. And, it was maybe one of the many forces. People tried to stop it. Most people could not openly say we should not fight. Soldiers can't say that, civilians can't say that. Then if they did, they would be kind of arrested and tortured and maybe killed. Peace is, I think, not fighting, but the great peace is no wars and battles in the world in the future. And we should really start from that vision, a great peace. And so how do we do that? There are so many violent people, violent things are happening in the world. Many people are kind of committed to have a revenge and to kill other people. So this is the reality of the world. But from here, how do we get to a world without no war? I think this is almost impossible, but I don't think it is a completely impossible process. Collectively, we can envision the processes, and then we can start acting. My father did not come home, after the war. Right after the war, he divorced my mother and then didn't come and see us. And we were in the countryside. He knew where we were, but he sent a kind of best friend and told my mother that he was not coming back and he was not coming to see us. That was it. It was a very traumatic experience that my parents were separated, my mother was abandoned. And Morihei Ueshiba was a close friend of, and then teacher of my father and then family. So he invited my mother and then two of my brothers to live in a house on the compound of the dojo in the countryside. That time, Japan was completely disarmed. All martial arts were prohibited. So he was doing a kind of underground Aikido class. What I felt strongly was his maybe spiritual presence and spiritual power. And then I realized that he was actually showing the power of being immovable. I really liked to be close to a great master. I knew I was 13 years old, but he was a great, great person.
Aikido is a path, which means it's a process. It's a journey rather than a product or just a skill that you learn. It's far more than a physical skill. And then you had someone like O-sensei, who carried the traditional ways and in a sense was an innovator looking towards the future. He really felt that Aikido was something that would contribute in the future not only to the rebuilding of Japan, but to an increase of the possibility of peace in the world. He felt so strongly about that. After the war, when so many people were just down, you know, they're spiritually depleted, that O-sensei was actually cheerful and hopeful. I mean, what a beacon of hope at that time, and how special, for what an incredible opportunity Tanahashi sensei had as a young person at that time to be around that.
What I learned most from him at that time was we always have some negative forces coming, you know, from within us and from around. All kind of bad things are happening. Don't struggle, you know, don't resist. And you just kind of invite all the negative movement and then just unite your energy to all this negative movement, and then unite the force, and then just throw down the opponent.
I wonder about that moment between Ueshiba sensei and your father, where he went off to war instead of staying and collaborating for peace.
My father was not a pacifist, you know. He was a military officer. He would encourage maybe Japan to fight if he sees that there is maybe a good chance to win, I think. So maybe he knew, and also he received this message through his spiritual practice, that this is absolutely not a good idea. Later he started something called Heiwa Kyokai, Shinto Church of Peace, because he believed that deity was the only deity that sort of emerged and then gave a message of peace. He wanted me to take over his church. Of course, I was trained as a Shinto priest. You know, he trained me when I was young, and there were not so many members. I said no.
So did your father express disappointment when you rejected the offer?
Well, he doesn't, show his emotion.
You know, I think it's obvious to everybody who knows us that Kaz and I are a kind of your proverbial opposites, you know, that need each other. And so same reason I went for Zen. You know, I was not the type. I was a messy person. I was a very like, when I say that, I mean the Zen place is exquisitely orderly, right? That's part of the, like, I have to get stiff just to even describe it. And precise and ritually correct. So, yes, he had those that kind of reserved nature. But he also was ready to let it go. He wanted, that's also why he came to America. He wanted to get free of those strictures of Japanese society. He's always said that. Well, he still has them, but he made a kind of choice. He was trying to shed that. America called to him for that. I called to him for that. So, and on the other hand, he challenged me,
I'm really happy that all the different factors came together to produce us, and just all the different things that had to happen throughout history for this to be true. Good job, guys.
The Buddhists are always saying, be here now, right? But what's the big deal? I'm being, and I'm here, and it's now. So the reason it's a big deal is because that's all there is. So be here now, and then be here now again. I'll tell you where and when. Here and now. You'll never get away from here, no matter how it may appear. You'll find there's no there out there. There's only here, here, here. And what time is it? You can't miss it. It's never the future or past. It's just now, now, now. And forever it will last. So be here now.
De kunst en het leven zelf zijn voor Kas het krijgerspad, waarop hij zijn visie over geweldloosheid uitdraagt. Hij bezoekt plaatsen in China waar door de Japanners oorlogsmisdaden zijn begaan. Hij richtte een stichting op voor een wereld zonder oorlogen. En hij gebruikt zijn kunst als protest tegen plutonium en de nucleaire wapenwedloop. Een van de projecten die hij initieerde was de opera A Nagasaki.
In the early 90s, I was working at Greenpeace on running their nuclear campaign out of Washington, D.C. And I got this phone call from Kaz, I believe, saying that he had this group of people together and that they were going to try and stop the country of Japan from building a plutonium fast breeder reactor and from shipping its plutonium around the world. And would I help them? And I remember my colleagues in Greenpeace saying, what? I mean, this is a group of artists on the West Coast. I mean, what could they possibly do? I said, you don't know these artists. Who better than a group of really creative artists, originally from Japan, to challenge the U.S.-Japanese relationship around nuclear weapons and plutonium. And so I tried to help them from my position at Greenpeace. And next thing I knew, they were starting a whole organization called Plutonium Free Future.
And ever since then, there's no more shipment from France or UK. And Japanese plutonium project is, Japanese people don't say we cancel it, we postpone it. So it's been postponed for some time. Nothing serious is happening now. Of course, and then we are doing against the nuclear power plants in general, and we are warning about the danger of these accidents. And then, as you know, Fukushima happened.
my dad had written this poem, Eternal Remorse, which he had me compose some music to.
A very dark path we took, invading, killing, raping, women, children, and men, hundreds of thousands taken, my eternal regret, we shall never forget. A very wrong path we took, slaughtering a civilization, 8 years of genocide on our sister nation. My heart is filled with sorrow, yesterday, today, and tomorrow.
He became what it truly is to not be separate, what it is to have no discrimination between ourselves and others.
And peace is not, it's not just the absence of war, it's also the proactive work towards getting along with each other. And that actually mirrors exactly what Kaz has been talking about. You know, a world without armies doesn't just mean losing the armies. It means whatever it takes for people to live together where they don't feel they need armies.
Having military forces is just a habit, maybe an addiction. Costa Rica abolished its military forces in 1949. They have universal free health care and then free education, and is leading the world by the kind of happiness of citizens by different surveys. Each member state of the European Union, they don't need their own army. They can, of course, they have police or border control, but no armies. Yeah, It is very possible, very possible.
Met de traditie van Enzo, de cirkel van de oneindigheid, een symbool van het Japanse zen-boeddhisme, laat Kaz zien dat kunst, leven en het vredesvuur dat in hem woedt één zijn.
Since my 20s, I have been always living existentially. That means maybe I would ask myself, should I do this work if a doctor is to tell me I would live for 1 year and so forth, always kind of being ready to die. And my feeling is that when I die, my body, mind goes. But I feel that my love, my vision, and my service to others, service to the world, will continue working. So I feel that if we expand ourselves larger than our own body and mind and work, we can, in a way, continue to keep working. And then I feel happy about it, remembering that I can always love, even when I'm kind of bedridden for a long time and people stop coming, and I might feel that I'm not loved anymore, but I can remind myself that I can always love. この命限りはありや海原の大波小波砕け登る大波小波砕け登る This life, is there any boundary? In the vast ocean, waves and billows keep crashing and rising. This is my death poem. It's funny to show my own death poem before I die. Usually people find someone's death poem after this person is dead, but now I'm kind of telling everybody, because it's not only my life, but everyone's life. This life is boundless, and even after we die, our love, our vision, our service can continue working. So that is my vision. I think this is something how we like to die, and then that's how we like to live.
Wilt u naar aanleiding van deze uitzending reageren of een gratis programmagids bestellen? Bezoek dan onze website boeddhistischeomroep.nl. DVD's van onze programma's kunt u bestellen op 010 411 3977.